to bring you the third in our series of Thursday Night Nature Talks for this year. And a few words of introduction about the Loon Preservation Committee. So we were created back in 1975. Our mission is to recover a viable loon population as part of the statewide and region-wide loon population, to monitor the health of loons and loon populations as indicators of environmental quality, the health of our lakes and ponds, and to encourage a greater understanding and a wider appreciation of not just loons, but the larger natural world. So the last couple of times I was here introducing LPC, I was talking a bunch about the monitoring that we do, because we are just coming up on our loon census, which is our big effort. With that safely behind us, I think it's probably germane just for a minute or two to talk about some of the research that the Loon Preservation Committee does. While I'm doing that, let me hand these out. Here's a little bit more information about the Loon Preservation Committee, and for anybody who might be interested in coming to more of our talks, I'll hand these out as well. And so research is an important, I'll give you these two. Good, that's all right. So research is an important part of the Loon Preservation Committee and what we do, because it's one thing to say our populations are increasing or they're decreasing, but we also want to know what are the factors that are contributing to those changes. And the nesting phase of loons is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks for our loon population, because despite our best efforts, close to half of our loon nests fail every year. And often we just don't know why. So the Looncam actually began as an effort to, along with trail cams that are trained on our loon nest, as an effort to get an intensive look at least one nesting pair of loons and find out what was going on. Maybe we would catch a nest failure and find out exactly how that happened, or maybe we would watch, hopefully we would watch that nest all the way through to fruition, but learn a little bit more about loons. And so this started really as a research tool. But as we were collecting this information, we said, well, if we're collecting this footage, why don't we just broadcast it to the world? Maybe somebody is interested in this. And so we put it up on our website. Lo and behold, people were very interested in doing this. For any of you who think that this is an easy thing, let me disavow you of that notion. Technically, it was very complex. And essentially after that first year, we were crying uncle, and that is the moment when Bill Gassman walked through our front door. And we recognized talent and genius when we saw it, and so we quickly recruited Bill, and I have to say that Bill has become like a full-time plus unpaid staff member for us throughout the summer as we go through, and we were so impressed by Bill's efforts and his desire to help people understand a little bit more about nesting loons, and just the amount of sheer expertise and time that he put into this, that we nominated Bill and selected Bill as our Spirit of the Loon Award winner, which is an award that is meant to just acknowledge people who are outstanding in their voluntary efforts for the Loon Preservation Committee. So we were happy to do that. We should have nominated Ginny as well, because she loses her husband every summer for this as well. But it's been great to have Bill here. I'm looking forward to the recap of the nesting, of the Loon Nest Cam, the effort, and the amount of time and expertise, as I said, that Bill has put into this is just incredible. It's astounding, and so I'm happy to have him come and talk a little bit about those efforts. One thing I will say before I introduce Bill is that we are always happy to never charge admission for any Loon Center events, to come to the Loon Center to visit, to walk our trails, or for these Thursday Night Nature Talks. But we do, of course, happily accept donations, and so I will pass around a little Loon cap. If you are inspired to make a donation, then please feel free to do so, but it is not by any means required. And with that, over to you, Bill.
Thank you, Harry. This is the Loon telling us it's time for the presentation to start. This was a very unusual year for Loon Nest. We normally do 2 nests. We normally get 4 eggs, 1 to 4 chicks, depending on the year. This year we had 5 nests. Some of them were, we loaned the cameras out to private people and they put them at their homes. But we watched 6 different nests, and we still ended up with only 2 eggs that hatched. Lots of stories, and so we're going to go through some of that tonight. The agenda tonight, we're just going to go through the 2023 overview. The cameras were running basically from May 3rd to July yesterday, whatever that day, 19th. And imagine that we're taking 30 pictures per second, 24 hours a day. So we have a few pictures that to pull from. And tonight is going to be a lot of still shots and some videos that we have collected during the few months that we were going. We're going to talk a little bit about what we see. There's some things other than loons that show up on the camera. We have some of that. And then for those that want to hear about it, we're going to do a little technical talk about how does the camera work. I'll keep that pretty light, and we'll go into a Q&A, just if you have any questions about how we do this kind of stuff. So for an overview, we do broadcast live 24/7, and it is part of a research and outreach and educational program. We operate May till mid-July, so we did start May 3rd this year, and we've been going since 2014. It's the Looncam's 9th year, it's my 8th year, so next year will be year number 10. We have a lively online chat community, and that's putting it mildly, but it's great because we get a lot of information about what has happened on the camera because nobody can watch it full time. We have a large on-demand clip library. This year, an intern was assigned to make videos, and she did a great job. We have 45 new videos that were created this year. And it links to other LPC's programs. So we do some promotional work for the LPC, and they help the camera out as well. So we do have a page on the loon.org's website. We put news about the camera there, what's happening right now. We have the live stream is actually there. So if you go to loon.org/looncam, right there is the feed. But it's on YouTube, so you can also jump into YouTube. There's lots of information about the pairs and about the camera, and basically it's a gateway to loon.org site where there's lots of information about loons. Really pretty much anything you want to know. We use YouTube because it's great. It's easy to use. Everybody's used YouTube. It adapts to your user's device. So if you're on a phone, you get a small picture. If you're on a PC or a TV, you get a large picture. If you have low bandwidth, it reduces the resolution. It just adapts to whatever you have without us having to worry about it. So that's a great feature. It has a 12-hour rewind. So people that, if on the chat room it says, oh, they changed nests, or changed who was incubating 15 minutes ago, you can rewind that 15 minutes and rewatch it. And so that's a real nice feature. It does have the chat. We get a big audience. We get a YouTube broadcast. The more people that are watching, the more they broadcast it as a hint or as a suggestion to other people. And so it's a positive feedback loop, and we get a lot of people watching. We do get viewer statistics, so we can tell where people, how many people have watched, what cities they're coming from. It tells us age and gender, but I'm not sure I believe it completely. But the nice thing is it just works, and it's free. There are other solutions out there that are $1,000 a month and don't give you as much capability. So free or $1,000 a month, okay, we'll go with free. This is the library from this year, and I know you can't read that, but if you go to the YouTube channel of LPC, there's over 200 on-demand videos there from the past few years, 45 new ones. It's all sourced from our video archive. So we not only broadcast to YouTube, but we also broadcast to an archive. And so when something happens, we can go back 7 days and pull that video in, edit it up, and then upload it to YouTube. We edit it for brevity. Turns out most people don't watch more than about 50 seconds of a video. And I can make the best video you could ever see, it's 5 minutes long. They'll still watch 50 seconds. And then we put in a playlist, so like once the season's over on the back TV there, they'll play the playlist from 2023. The chat is it's lively and live interaction. We have lots of regulars that show up every year. It's almost like a homecoming when we start the camera up in May. There's local, national, global people, and literally all over the world. Vietnam turned out to be the 4th most common country that this year. We do have a lot from Russia. We have a lot from Poland. We have a lot from Japan. I mean, it's interesting where it comes from. Generally, it's the northern countries where they also have Loon, but Vietnam not one of those. So I'm not sure what they were definitely watching this year. We've sort of developed a custom on the chat room of sharing timestamps. So anytime you see something that happens, somebody will type in, roll it at 2014 and 15 seconds. And that way, again, people can go back, look at the chat, scroll back, and see what they want to see. Plus, it helps those of us that are making videos, because I can see, something happened, and I know when to go back into the archive. This year we had a gentleman from the UK that loves spreadsheets. And he started making a spreadsheet of every instance that happened. And he also likes statistics. And so we have, I'll show you later in the presentation, but we have graphs of how many times the male or the female was on the egg, how many times they swapped, just all sorts of statistics. In general, the female incubates twice as much as the male. And that pretty much lasts right up to the point of the hatch when things change a bit. But yeah, all that statistics is just, it's great. We had a lot of problems with trolls, over the years, because it is the internet after all. We've gone to a subscription-only mode for people that want to actually type in something in the chat. And I think we had to ban like 2 or 3 people this year that they just came in and obviously a troll, banned them. We have a 1 strike and you're out policy. and so it really was a very well-behaved chat audience this year. I mean, I think a lot of them are sort of self-regulating, so that's worked out well. We try to keep people on topic, but when the loon's sitting on an egg for 28 days and not a lot's happening, we end up talking about our gardens and other, various things. My grandmother's coming this weekend to visit, and you just got to put up with it to a certain point. We also do a certain amount of fundraising, so during the Member a Day in May, we advertise that. So what do we see? We see the cycle of reproduction. We see the challenges to a successful hatch. Over the years, we've seen some failures, and we've seen why they fail. We see that loons have different personalities. Some are aggressive in trying to get their mate off the nest. Some are not so much. So like this year, the male would come up, and the female would just sit there like, I don't want to get off the nest. And the male was like, okay, see you in a couple hours. That's one of the reasons that the female had 2 to 1 on the male, because if she didn't get off immediately, the male was just like, I'm out of here. We do see unexpected behavior. There are books written on how loons are supposed to behave. There's movies that are shown here on how they're supposed to behave. Loons never read the book. So they will do what they want. They will leave the nest after the chicks have hatched, and they'll come back to the nest. We see all sorts of things. Sometimes they're very skittish. We had one nest fail this year because a deer showed up. No threat at all, but Loon's like, I'm out of here, and left the eggs behind. We get drama. I mean, especially when you lose a chick or when an egg gets lost or doesn't hatch. Nobody likes that. We do get to see loon chicks, though. Generally, every year we see at least 1 or 2, and they're funny little things for the first couple of days. We enjoy that. And then leaving the nest, of course, is the big finale. Once they're land birds, they're not designed, or they're seabirds. They're not designed to be on land. And so once the chicks are healthy enough to get off the nest and swim, they're gone. They don't come back to the nest, generally. So what else do we see? Well, we see, who knows what this is? Sparrow. Who knows what that? Redwing. Actually, I think, well, you probably know better than I do. I think that was a female redwing, but maybe not. This is our we kept calling it a goose cam for a while because the geese kept deciding it was their, or to be their nest. This is Looncam 1, the one that starts in May. And we've got a kingfisher, and we got some turtles. We got a big turtle. He just sort of melted into that rock. There's a wood duck. I think I'm cut off a little bit. There was supposed to be a turtle in the side.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the turtle's in the back there. Yep, and then the red wings up top. We got an eagle. This was I was zoomed in as far as I could on a foggy morning, and we saw this eagle just sitting on a rock out there. Every year, a great heron tends to want to sit on top of the nest. So, and speaking of that, here's our first video of the night. We got a video of this loon. He was there for a long time, so I just cut out a bit of it. But he's surfing, you know. He's got those legs. He's got it figured out. He's gone. We got another little heron thing. We got this. We caught two of these. You ever seen one catch a fish? And then we had the bear cub. You're not gonna believe this one. He's like, I'm out of here. There's the two eggs. And just a few seconds later, here comes the bear cub.
He doesn't care.
And he gives a glance at the nest. He's like, We saw two bear on the. This was Looncam 2. On Looncam 1, we also saw a bear swimming way off in the distance. So, like I said, we had 2 LPZ cams, and then we had 4 others. We had one on Lake Canasaka. They normally have done their own camera, but we loaned them one this year. The loons kept coming to the nest really every day, but they never laid an egg. So that was a failure. The top right, Little Sebago, Maine, we loaned them a camera because they had asked for one, and they had it was a natural nest, right on the island. This is the one that a deer swam over to the island, had a fawn, and the fawn and the deer are like tramping around the island, and the loons were like, we're out of here. And they abandoned their eggs. And it just doesn't seem right because the deer wasn't going to bother them, but they got skittish and they left. Lower left, this was a nest that this has never been a successful pair. They have tried to nest on the land for the last couple of years. There's a lot of wake in this area, and so this was the first year for an artificial nest. The loon's not on there right now, but they were there, and turned out the male didn't want to do any incubating. So he'd go on for 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, and then leave, and then eggs would be sitting there for 10 hours, and then the female would come back, and she'd sit on the eggs for her shift. But after about a week of this, the eggs weren't viable anymore, and so they abandoned those. The one on the right, this loon deserves the name Loon because there was an artificial nest, which it ignored. There was a nice tuft of grass just off the camera off the left right here, which it ignored. But there was this, 4 inches of water that it said, I'm going to build a nest here. So it brought all the lily pads in and built a nest and built it up and up and up. Post in the water, drive it in. It's a 16-foot post. It's about 12 in the water and the rest up above. Looncam 1 was a disappointment this year. We didn't have any loon's nest for the first time. I think it's the 4th time in like 30 years that they didn't nest in that area. Here's Caroline, one of the biologists here, fixing the nest, making sure the nesting material is fine, making sure everything's as fine as it possibly can. But the problem was we had 5 loons, and it only takes 2 to make a nest. And so they really couldn't figure out what to do. So the 2 loons that had mated the year before were there. One of them may have been sick because we found her, she had beached herself on somebody's beach. Put her back in the water. There wasn't any obvious danger or damage to her, but I don't think she was in fighting form. And the male had been in a fight with a turtle last year, and so he might have been injured, and so again, may not have been in fighting form. And so this may be that transitional kind of year where they're trying to figure out who's going to take over the territory. So yeah, every day we just see 5 loons just looning around. We did, obviously part of the territorial thing is fighting. So here's it's not a bad fight, it's just a little chasing each other. Oh, I'm a boss. This is probably the female just sort of sitting there like, whatever you guys do, And then we had eagle harassment. Eagles aren't real fans of loons, and vice versa. They just sort of coexist, I guess. And then the one thing we got the best out of Looncam 1 was these guys love to swim underwater. And in the morning, we had a little area around the camera. If it was a calm morning, we could see down into the bottom. It was pretty clear. And so we got a lot of pictures. This is a video compilation of all the underwater swimming. So it's different times. They're faster than I am with the camera.
slow-mo.
Yeah, there was a little slow-mo there. Just that one little scene. I liked the way he turned, and I was like trying to figure out how did they turn so quick? This is not sped up.
That's
It isn't. He just zipping by. And then here we have. This is the last scene of Looncam 1. I thought it was appropriate. They're just taking off. Just he's running.
Are there still 5 loons on that?
It got down to 4, then it got down to 3, but never down to 2. There was a point we thought that maybe there would be 2, and then all of a sudden the third one showed up again. So yeah, that was sort of a disappointment. You know, usually we have incubation and chicks and all the things from Looncam 1, but not this year. We'll try again next year. All right, so Looncam 2 was a little different. We had, the pair was literally there the day we put the camera in. Last year, they beat us to it. They had eggs there when we went to put the camera in, and we had to put the camera on shore. So this year, we're like, oh, we're going to beat you this time. We were pretty close to their eggs again. They're a very amorous couple. A lot of time spent on the nest together. There's a little morning stretch. I think this is the male. He's just coming in for his, I think he's taking a break. He was taking a break off the egg and just going out for a little bit of a preening exercise and then coming back. They're so graceful in the nest. Of course, we have our heron on this nest too as well. It's, Loon in sort of a defensive position. Something's bothering it at this point. We saw this Loon do this a lot. Some shots we got along the way. So this is the first hatch. Now this is sped up because the hatch takes about 45 minutes. But what you're going to see here is oops. You can see the egg is sort of half open. On the left side, there's the big white area. It's almost out. Notice the time is 28 minutes after 8.
That was when Biff said it was gonna hatch.
Yeah, he was really close. So this is 33, so it's a few minutes later. And you can hear the chick. Like, we could literally hear the chick in the egg because the microphone is right now. There's right down the corner. You can see a little eyeball there. So LPC doesn't name the chicks, but the chatters named this one Thor because of the thunderstorm going on while it was and there it comes out. Loon seems very pleased with itself, doesn't it?
Is that the male or the female?
I believe it's the female. Yeah. You see the necklace on the female? On the male, the middle bar is just a dot. So normally you can't tell male from female, but on this one we could. And then the loons always remove the membrane from the shell, so that's how you can tell they're getting ready to leave the nest. Although there was still one egg left, but it was just a janitorial duty, I guess it has. We thought the chick was going to get popped in the water. We've seen that happen. This chick was a little bit reluctant to swim for a while. Talk about personality. Sometimes the chick is like right in the water. This one was born at night, around 9 o'clock. Yet here it is, morning, almost 6 o'clock in the morning, and it still hasn't gone swimming. That's unusual. Usually at first light. More pictures of them. And then the second one was born, and they went in to start swimming with each other. Of course, there's no end of pictures that you can get when this is going on. I mean, this is where we have the 900 people watching, because this is at 5:48 in the morning. We probably don't have 900, but that's when it happens. The good stuff happens really early in the morning. There's one on the back and one swimming behind. There's the two. You can see the one in the back resting on the front one. They were very cuddly for a while, and then they had a few little squabbles once they both got in the water. I have a little video here. I'm swimming around. And they departed that afternoon. Basically, the second chick was born. Well, the second chick was born, I think, the next morning or the next afternoon. and by 4:30, they were pretty much out of there. This is Everett, and Everett just did a loon nest examination yesterday, and so he came out and collected eggshells from the nest that were left over, and he spent about 45 minutes just answering questions and talking about what's it like to be an intern at LPC, what's his job like. And he covers a lot of the lake, and so he's had some good experiences. He loves being outside, which I guess is a requirement. That and getting your feet wet. So a few statistics, just, we get this out of YouTube. We had 27,000 chat messages. We had a peak of 844 concurrent users. So that means 844 people watching at the same time. Our average day and night was about 85. The lower left is the times of day people watch. So Saturday and Sunday seem to be the days of the week that they watch. And our audience is predominantly over 65, but a lot in the 55 and up, and then it sort of goes down as you get younger and younger. So we need to help these younger people understand the value of loons, I suppose. But these were some of the statistics that our eagle keeper Jason from UK gave us. So things like the 337 egg rolls, there was mom off the nest 107 times, and so forth. We had a lot of large wake hit the raft. We had 52 occurrences of that. We had, well, you can just see lots of data. The red and blue are when the male was on the nest versus the female in the nest. Blue for male, green for female. But you can see that it's pretty consistent, with some exceptions.
Was that just Looncam 2?
That's just Looncam 2, yeah. And then here you've got, this is like just an example of the log he would keep. So it would be a date and a time and then a little note about what was going on. So I know when both Mel and I, when we went to make videos, we would just look at the time and it's like, oh, there's something interesting, and then go pull the archive. It just made it so easy. That was the first time anybody's ever done that for us, so we really appreciate it. All right, so the camera itself, just a little bit about that. This is a picture of Looncam 2 looking from the back end out towards the camera. And the camera is reflecting in the water, so it looks bigger than it is. It's a pan tilt zoom, so we can move the camera in a pan. We can tilt it up and down. We can zoom in 32x zoom, so you can get really close. We have an infrared floodlight, so we can see at night. We stream to YouTube with a 35 megabit per second upload speed, which is the fastest we can get in the area. We keep 7 days of archive. We also take a time lapse, so once a minute we take a picture. So if something happens, we can very quickly zip through those snapshots and find out when something's occurred. And we also have a remote power switch, so I can turn on and off the camera. Sometimes you want to reboot the camera because it's acting wonky, or I can turn off the infrared if I want to. The Looncam 2 is an off-grid design. We have it's batteries that are recharged by 2 solar panels. We use lithium this year, which is, in previous years, our lead acid batteries have gone dead after 3 days of cloudy weather. And if you remember June and early July, we had a lot of cloudy days. So I just was on pins and needles hoping that it didn't fail, and it never did. We were able to keep, I couldn't tell, I had no readings to see how bad the batteries were, but they didn't fail. And then we have a radio link. Let's see, I don't have a picture here, I guess. We have a radio link to the mainland. So from the island, which has no power, which is why we're using the solar panel, and then we use a radio link about 1,000 feet over to the mainland where the internet connection is. So this is just a block diagram. We have all the various things. I built this so I sort of understand myself. What did I build here? Where does it all connect? Oh yeah, on the left, this is the solar panel, and then this is one of the radio antennas that we use to beam it across the lake. This is the 2 batteries and the equipment, the controller and the inverter to give us power. That's what the camera looks like. Well, it looks just like back there, but we have the, this is the infrared light right here, going that way. Connect the microphone. Everything's modular now, so that I can easily connect it up without getting wet. It turns out when you push on a post with a boat, the boat moves away from the post. It's this opposite and equal reaction thing. This was the camera on Lake Kanasaka, and historically this is the first camera that was used. So the first and the second year that we had the Looncam before we bought the new cameras, this was the original old camera, and so we have still repurposed it, which was great. This is Looncam 2. This is the one over in Sebago. These are the folks putting in the post near the island. And so to wrap up, lessons learned, I always like to just tell myself, what did I learn this year? We learned lithium batteries are far superior. I hooked the solar panels in series rather than parallel this year. That was great. We bought a better microphone. Turns out, I mean, I was buying $10 microphones, and it turns out a $30 microphone is what I needed. So it was so much clearer, no hiss, no hum. And you could hear the sounds, the bird sounds. It wasn't muffled at all. It's just really good. The camera updated its software over last winter, and the new version had a graphic equalizer, so I could tune out the lower frequencies where the wind, we used to get a lot of wind noise, and we were able to block that out. And then there were times where there were people in neighbors and so forth that we'd hear parties at night, and I was able to dampen the frequencies. And you could still hear them, but you couldn't understand what they were saying. We tried really hard not to invade it. We invade the Loon's privacy, not people. Also, it turns out that by the end of 2 days of getting up at 5 o'clock and going to bed at 10, I was fried, but yet the Loons didn't leave. And so we need to, next year we're going to work on a way of letting the Looncam run another day or two, at least have the people ready in case we need to do that. So that's the presentation for this year. Thanks for your attention. I'll take any questions if you have any. Yeah.
You showed the bear getting close to the nest. Did the Loons come back to that nest?
Oh yeah, they came back pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after the chicks hatch and they leave the nest, where do they go? Do they stay in the area?
Normally they leave, they call it the brooding area. And depending on what the nest is, the brooding area can be close or a quarter mile away. And in this case, with Looncam 2, it is a quarter mile away, but they tend to do it over a period of about 3 or 4 days. So the first day, they're still in the area. In our case, the second day, they were still in the area. They were starting to move south. Unfortunately, one of the chicks got eagled the second day, and so now there was the one chick left, and we saw them come back, and then the next day, they were all gone. But yesterday, when I went up to do the post-nesting session, I saw the Loon was in the traditional breeding area, and the one chick was still there.
And how long does the chick stay with the parents?
It's like, what, 12 weeks, Harry?
Yeah, 12 or 13 weeks till they're fledged, but even after that, they'll really stick with the parents until the parents leave.
Yeah, the parents leave first, and then the chicks leave after that. By November, they're pretty much gone.
Yeah, typically, but it's a range.
Yeah.
Some are still around in December even.
And then they stay away. They go to the ocean, and they stay in the ocean for 3 years before they come back. So we don't know. You can't ban them, so you don't know where they've gone or if they've come back.
How do you identify them?
The loons that are breeding loons generally can be caught because they're protecting their chicks, and so they go out and do banding exercises at night. And this is something that interns love to do, I guess. And they go out and they throw a net over them, they bring them in, they hold them tight, they take a feather from them, they take a blood sample, and then they put a set of bands on their legs. and so they can identify them, you know, in the future but it's just the adults. The chicks are too small to ban. I guess some chicks have been banned at the end of the season when they can catch them, but in general, it's just so like the male of Looncam, excuse me, the male of Looncam 2 had not been banded last year because they couldn't catch him, and we only knew it was the same loon because he had that anomaly in his neck, and it was a dot rather than a bar, and he acted the same. So we sort of knew it was the same one, but now they finally banded him this year. So next year we'll know if it's the same one that comes back.
But don't you think that's disrupting them? They're going out there during that time. And
I'm sure they don't like it.
And you're trying to trap them and they're so scared like they left the nest for so many things. But now you're taking a net out there and grabbing them.
Well, we're not doing it while they're incubating the eggs, because if they would leave the eggs would die.
Right.
But now the chick's already there, and they're protecting the chick, and they want to protect the chick. So as soon as they're released, I'm sure they're a little traumatized, but they go back to you know, protecting the chick.
How would you rank the predators? Like, where would the ranking be? Like eagles, fish, snapping turtles? I saw 53 wakes from boats.
Yeah.
How would you rank those in worst to least?
You know, I don't have enough data to tell you. I can say that in my experience of 8 years of running the camera, eagles are by far the biggest problem.
Like the most dangerous.
I've seen the snapping turtle grab the leg of a male loon. I have never seen it grab the chick. I've seen crows pack an egg and break it. I've seen not on the camera, but I've seen like I don't know, it was like a mink or an otter, something of that nature,
Right.
come up from below and grab a chick. But you know, and loons, because if a loon is trying to take over a territory, it will get the other loon out of there, and we have examples of where it kills the chicks because it doesn't want to have that bloodline propagated. So we had that happen in Buzzell's Cove a couple years ago, and then that new male, of course, he's down there, and they bred for like 4 or 5 years before they had anything, and now the last 2 years they've had a single chick. So, but loons are not wed to each other; they're wed to their territory, and they win territory from the other, and so. You know, they come back in the spring and they're like, oh, hi, you know, you're here. They don't hang out together in the wintertime that we know. And so it is a territorial fight, and the strongest loon wins. So that's why we see sometimes like Looncam 1 didn't do anything this year. 2 years ago, Looncam 2 didn't do anything because there were 5 loons around, and there were all sorts of fights going on. And then the following year, we had a new male. Same female, but a new male in the nest.
So they don't mate for life?
No. I mean, if they win the territory,
Yeah.
you know, you could say, yeah, they do. But if a female kicks a female out, or if a male kicks a male out, the next year, how you doing? You know, they don't care, or they don't seem to care.
And how many pairs are there now in New Hampshire? Any idea?
Harry?
Last year we had the record 345 territorial pairs.
Historically, how many have there been?
Oh, I mean, so,
Before they declined and.
sure, yeah. I think by many of our estimates say that we're barely past the halfway point of a truly recovered population. So by looking at, you know, what lakes, just by looking at physical characteristics of lakes, we know which lakes ought to have a loon pair. Many, and a lot of them still don't. From talking with old timers, you know, back in 1978, the previous director, Scott Sutcliffe, did a canvas and asked a lot of either of these old timers, do you remember loon pairs on your lake from when you were a kid, right? And things. But by the time 1975 rolled around, we were down far less than 100 pairs of loons, you know, and declining pretty rapidly at that point.
Here's a, this slide here, I didn't, somehow I passed it. I want to show that this is, talk about problems. This is some wave action. Now this isn't the worst we saw. This is just one that I grabbed. Rock and roll, huh?
Can boaters be cited for disturbing?
No, the thing is, this is about maybe 200 yards from where that boat would have been. So it was. I mean, typically it's the either large boats going any speed, wake boats going, full wake. Sometimes people go, they think they're doing no wake, but they're just going at maximum wake, very slow, plowing through the water. There's really nothing that can be done. I mean, first of all, the loon protection, the signs were not in the boat road. They were well outside of where most people travel. And so there was no reason for them to go slow, to think about it, right? Oh yeah, there's loons way over there. And it just, we've seen eggs. This is a really nice nest because this nest was used last year as well, and it's really solid and it has a big bowl to it. But we've seen where it had less material, the eggs started rolling out, and it was like, oh no, there it goes. Because the loons aren't all in the nest all the time. The eggs will be left alone 10, 15, maybe even 30 minutes at a time. And if a big wake comes in when the loons are not there, there is a risk that they would be rolled into the water. I don't have any examples of that, but
I had one egg go into the mud one time. A few years ago.
yeah. So it's there's lots of risks. I mean, your question was, what's the biggest one? In my mind, it's the eagle, because I know that in the brooding ground where that remaining chick is sitting, there's 2 eagles sitting there, looking right at her, waiting for that moment. And so, yeah, I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know. You just keep making more loon chicks and hopefully enough survive.
But they eat so much, the fish, is there not enough fish? I mean, they eat so many fish.
What was that, the loons?
The loons.
Yeah,
So
that's what the brooding area is about. They go to an area where the fish are plentiful, and so do eagles. But the little fish are what the chicks eat, at least for a while. But you saw that heron, there's bigger fish around.
Right.
So were you familiar with where all the nests were placed this year?
Just the nests that
Just the ones that you were involved
that I'm involved with, yeah. I mean, I don't know, there's, like on Winnipesaukee, Everett was talking to me yesterday, it was what, like 15 nests on Winnipesaukee, or maybe even more than that?
15 rafts, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I think this year we'll be setting a new record. I think it's probably going to be pretty close to 150 rafts floated throughout the state.
Well, I mean, there was a nest you guys placed off of Blanchard Island, not too far from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, someone cut it off at one point. And
Oh, really?
You guys put it back and then you took it away.
Oh.
I'm not sure, the biologist did, Harry.
But I think that one produced.
Pardon?
I think I heard that there were 2 chicks out of that nest.
They were.
That's over at a little bit, not right at Blanchard, but fairly close to Blanchard. I heard
I'd
2.
be surprised because it's a very active area for boating and
Yeah.
people.
Well, once you go to the right, you go through the narrows there and go off to the right. I think that's where the chicks were. But yeah, it's like we got 2 this year out of 6 nests. We got 2 chicks,
One.
and a day later we had 1. So that's the kind of ratio that it shows you how much on the edge this species is, you know, and it's without LPC, I don't know. I mean, you know, how many loons were here when you guys started, Harry? Do you know?
Oh, right, so back in 1975, far fewer than 100 pairs, and I think the first time we surveyed the entirety of Winnipesaukee, we had one surviving chick.
Jeez.
44,000 acres of water and one loon chick.
And that's back when there weren't any eagles around, right?
I didn't keep
So
track of
why
them.
did they die?
Well, there just weren't that many, you know,
Here.
there in the first place. So they had been persecuted for many years. They've been hunted, and you know, DDT may have, and BCBs may have been taking their toll as well. Certainly not to the same extent as eagles and osprey and peregrine falcons, but there's probably some impact there as well.
So maybe it's just a natural.
Or nothing natural, DDT.
No. I mean, but
Up and down. I mean, we had a lot of rain this year, but there is a dam that's holding the lake up, right? So the loons have been around millions of years. We've been around, the dam's been around a couple hundred years. And so that's, you know, they would be, 500 years ago, they would have been on Winnipesaukee in a lot of the natural areas that are no longer natural. We have the wake, that we have the, you know, the rains that come up, and Winnipesaukee is like the last reservoir, so you know, it's like really high right now. And then you have the development, you know, where people are developing around where the loons used to nest. So all that sort of means that these artificial nests are really, you know, the main answer. So we're sort of artificially supporting the species to make up for some, like, you know, Harry said, that the humans are a problem. But, you know, what are you gonna do? You know.
So Bill, it's pretty amazing. Leanne and I, we live on Greens Basin.
Yeah.
And one night we were out there, and this family was gonna cut across the widest part, which is at least a half a mile. So it's mom, dad, two chicks, right? And I told Leanne, I said, they're gonna kill. There's jet skis going out there, boats going out there. So we went over there, and we escorted them across the entire
the whole
basin.
lake, they followed us.
They were closer than the screen is to us in our boat. And probably where this guy was here. And they're talking, so we started talking back.
Yeah.
It was just a whole conversation for the whole trip across the whole
We
basin.
filmed it and sent, who'd you send it to?
I sent it to, is Tom or John Cooley?
Yeah, John Cooley.
Yeah.
I sent that whole
They were
thing to him.
shocked.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
Well,
And they stayed right there with us.
they, you know, they do. Once they get to trust a human, they will stay close. And a lot of people have stories of even with the chicks coming right up to a boat. I've seen John go right up to a nest because there was a problem. He had to go right up to the nest, and the loon just sat there on the egg. Hey, John, how you doing? You know, and it was crazy. Last year we had one of the chicks, same nest, Looncam 2. The male had to go off, and we're not sure what, but maybe chase an eagle away, or maybe there were some intruders because it was his first year. Anyway, he was gone for hours, but he had taken the chick with him, and he left the chick behind. So now this little chick didn't know what to do. So it followed. We had a rope, you know, the rope to keep the boaters out. Followed the rope over and found the buoy, and treated the buoy as his parent, right? So we called up LPC, and we said, hey, can you help out here? And so they sent some interns down, and the interns came down and grabbed the chick and took it over and put it by the nest.
Lost it.
And you know, loved it. And the chick like said, "Oh, I like you better than my mom," and started following the kayak. And so she had to come back and do it again, and then finally the state. But yeah, they can be very attracted to people. I mean, they're again, you know, when Harry says it's people that are the problem, it's not people that are kind to them that are the problem. It's the people that either don't know or don't care that are the problem.
I will say, Bill, there's a huge difference between loons coming to us and us going too close to loons.
Absolutely.
Right? So one of the main things that we can do to protect loon populations is to give them space, especially when they're on the nest and especially when they have chicks. Because one of the consequences of this asynchronous hatch, so one chick hatching ahead of the other, is that you've got one chick that's older than the other, and it's the dominant chick, and the parents are just going to feed the first chick that comes to them, but that dominant chick makes sure that it's the first chick that gets there. And you can have a lake that is full of fish, but if there's too many people driving too close to that loon family, their concentration is on us as a potential predator and not on feeding the chicks and preening and protecting them and doing what they need to do. And that's one of the reasons why the survival rate of those second chicks is like 50-50. Right? If we left them alone and gave them more space, we'd have far more two-chick broods making it all the way. And so,
Pittsburgh area, you put your kayak on the lake and the loons are freaked. You know, they're much more skittish if they're not used to humans, but our loons down here tend to grow up used to humans and do tend to be a little more tolerant. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, Bill.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Bill.
The most recent footage. Cool stuff. So I went to some green space and I don't know where you guys are.
What's that?
Get
Oh,
stories from all
so
different
one where,
I guess I saw one day that wasn't, yeah, it was hot, but it wasn't like.
Thanks, Bill, appreciate
you
it.
know,
Thank
here,
you.
one of the things is it's easier, right, it's close.
So I have a
Logistically,
friend
it's
who
easier to get up
lives
there.
over on Ossipee Lake, and she was saying that they have loons there with the chicks, you know, riding around. Do you keep track of those? Or do they-
Yeah, I'm sorry, you did answer that, or ask that question, and I didn't get back to it.
No,